When we think about winter in Flagstaff, Arizona, many might picture snow-covered slopes, outdoor adventures, or cozy mountain towns. But for the indigenous communities of this region, winter is far more than a season. It's a sacred time tied to cultural identity, tradition, and the snow-covered San Francisco peaks. Our project, Echoes from the Peaks, explores how climate change is not only transforming weather patterns, but also threatening the cultural and spiritual lifeways of the native tribes who call this land home. We argue that climate change is disrupting Flagstaff winters, and in doing so, it's destabilizing the sacred cycles and environmental balance that Indigenous communities rely on to maintain their traditions, sovereignty, and well-being. One of the first things to understand is the significance of the San Francisco Peaks. For the Navajo, Hopi, and other religional tribes, the peaks are not just mountains, they're living sacred entities. These lands are central to ceremonies, rituals, and seasonal practices that have been passed down for generations. Winter snowfall plays a vital role in these traditions, marking spiritual cycles and sustaining the local ecosystem. However, with rising global temperatures and erratic snowfall, that cycle is breaking down. Climate change is bringing unpredictable winters, sometimes with too little snow or snow arriving too late in the season. These shifts affect everything from water availability to the timing of sacred rituals. They also threaten traditional homes, many of which are built with natural materials like adobe or sand that are far more vulnerable to harsh weather shifts. In short, climate change is not just an environmental issue here, it's a cultural one. What's at stake is far more than just cold weather. It's about preserving a deep relationship between people and place, a relationship rooted in respect, ritual, and survival.
So now that we have a better understanding and background on the significance of these peaks and what it means to the indigenous communities, now we can start to explore all the ways in which climate change is directly affecting these tribes. So as we know, climate change is primarily driven from the national rise of greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. So this specifically stems from human activities such as burning fossil fuels, large-scale corporations and industries burning these fuels, large-scale agriculture, just to name a few. So when these gases are emitted into the atmosphere, these gases trap heat as well, which causes higher temperatures in the atmosphere, and it is also creating warmer and shorter winters for Flagstaff. So if we take a closer look into the graph provided in our poster, we can really see these discrepancies of the amount of snowfall every year. So it shows the amount of snowfall measured from the years 1999 to 2025, and we can really see that some years are super snowy and some years are not very snowy. We also have to understand that the San Francisco Peaks are home to some of the most powerful spiritual beings that they believe in, and it also serves as a spiritual keystone for many tribes in the Southwest. So the peaks are centered around tradition, so snow isn't just snow for these tribes. It serves as a part of a sacred cycle in order for them to perform their ceremonies, their traditions in a timely fashion. So when that is tampered with, they are completely thrown off and it affects their identity and communities. Traditional indigenous homes are also being affected by climate change due to the fact that they are built off of sustainable materials such as adobe and clay, and these materials are highly vulnerable to weather changes. And also, vital medicinal plants and herbs that these indigenous people rely on are also becoming less and less accessible due to climate change. One of the most controversial topics in all of this, however, is the reclaimed wastewater used by the Arizona Snowbowl ski resort. This ski resort uses sewage water to create fake snow due to the lack of snow these past couple years, which is in turn polluting the mountains, but it's also destroying its purity and its sacredness in terms of the indigenous beliefs. So even though the water is of state standards, it's still continuously destroying the beliefs and sacredness of the peaks.
Hi, I'm Jaden, and I'm wrapping up our presentation with a final thought. We've talked a lot about how climate change is impacting Flagstaff, but at the heart of it, this isn't just about the weather getting weird. It's about the cultural survival of indigenous communities, especially the Navajo and Hopi, who consider the San Francisco peaks sacred. These peaks aren't just landforms. They are parts of living spiritual ecosystems. When the snowfall becomes unpredictable or doesn't come at all, it disrupts ceremonies, limits access to traditional plants, and puts even more pressure on an already vulnerable system like housing and water. And with most Indigenous households in the areas already dealing with limited infrastructure like no running water or electricity, climate change just makes everything harder. So when we talk about climate justice, we have to include Indigenous justice because protecting the environment means protecting the cultures that have always protected it. Thank you for listening.